Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at a slip joint knife from the Colt Titanium series. And this is in a pattern that I didn't previously have in my collection, so I'm pretty excited to have gotten my first in that pattern. And I think I got a pretty great example of it. If you want to look this model up, it is CT307, although this model has been discontinued as I got this on the secondhand market. But the pattern on this is going to be the Canoe pattern. And so, like I said, a first for me, but one that I've really been admiring from afar and so excited to finally have one in my collection. This is an equal-ended pattern with kind of a unique bolster shape that gives it the appearance of a canoe, hence the name Canoe pattern. And traditionally it's going to have a spear point blade and a pen blade, and this is a traditional configuration, so that's exactly what we're going to see here. Now, as I mentioned, this model CT307 has been discontinued for a while now, and I'm not sure exactly when this was produced and when it got discontinued. I did some research on it, but I didn't make it past that first page of Google, so don't have a ton of information on this knife yet. But if you know when this was produced, when it was discontinued, what it originally cost, any of those details, definitely let me know down in the comments. Any insight would be greatly appreciated, although I do plan on diving into that myself in the future as well. So going to start off in this closed position. We have a 3 5/8 inch closed position, weighs in at 2.63 ounces. Those bolsters are pinched and fluted, nickel silver bolsters that look great. We have brass pins on these black smooth bone covers, and that's what initially drew me into this knife. That and the word titanium here, which was interesting. We don't actually have any titanium on this knife, so I'll explain that when we get there. But the covers on this just look incredible to me. I only have one other knife in black smooth bone, and to be honest, I thought it was a little bit boring, and so it was a cover material that I really wouldn't have been seeking out had I not seen this one in person. And it really changed my perspective on black smooth bone. The other one doesn't have a lot of natural imperfections in the bone. Hopefully those are picking up a lot of small little marks on that bone. There's nothing wrong with how the fit and finish of this knife that's naturally occurring in the bone, and I absolutely love the way that looks. We have a lot of them on. You can see them especially prominent on this pile side, and so really enjoyed that about it. I also felt like the other one was wall-to-wall black that didn't really give it any variance or anything interesting to look at, where this one, you can see that pile side is pretty dark, but there's lighter spots and darker spots. If we flip over to the show side, we have this especially light gray cloud on the bottom right hand here. And yeah, it just made it so interesting, and I feel like these are really, really beautiful covers. So like I said, probably changed my perspective on black smooth bone. I'll definitely give it a shot in the future as well. I believe this is cow bone on here. Really well applied as well. There's no mechanical imperfections. So obviously we mentioned those natural imperfections, nothing you can do about that, but there's no cracks or anything like that, chips in this bone whatsoever. It's well placed, completely smooth transition from the bolsters to the pins, the shield's set in there well. And that's another thing that I think is especially impressive about this bone, is that when you have shields like this is a script of the Colt text, same thing we saw in the box. It's got a lot of fine, small detail in it that they have to cut out around the bone. And you can see this shield is placed into that bone perfectly. There's no wobble on it, no spots where it looks like it's chewed up. For some of my other shields with a lot of fine detail, sometimes the bone will get a little bit chewed up in those small corners and things like that. And you can see just exactly how well applied this is. There's absolutely no imperfections around that shield, and that's something I would kind of expect to see with that much fine detail. So that was really impressive to me, and I have to imagine this was not an expensive knife. This was made in China and pretty mass produced. I don't know that, I mean, it's gone up in value a little bit, but I would guess that this was probably a $20, $25 max knife when it was sold at retail. And I also don't think it's that old overall. I would guess probably 2010s, maybe 2000s. This doesn't strike me as super, super old though. But again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Would love to learn more about it. Moving over to the spine of that knife, we have the brass liners. A little bit of minor gapping in the spring on this side, but very, very minimal. That's really well done as well. Super impressed with this fit and finish on this knife. We flip over here, a little bit hard to tell the centering on those blades because they are kind of crammed up next to each other, but they do seem to be pretty well centered overall. We have a match drag nail nick pull on both of the blades. So we'll start with the spear point blade, but they are on opposite sides of the blade. So one's left-handed, one's right-handed. So easy access to both of those. Now, no half stops on either of these. The pull on this spear point is on the lighter side for sure, maybe a 4 or so. So not super heavy, but it is smooth and consistent, feels pretty great. Really nice access to that nail nick and great looking spear point blade. Overall, we have the titanium etch here with the Colt stamp on that show side, and the blade itself is not titanium. Nothing as far as I can tell on this knife is titanium. I think I saw one thing that said this was a stainless blade with a titanium coating of some sort, so that's why they call it the titanium series. A little bit misleading. I would kind of expect that maybe some of the metal on here was titanium or something like that, but that's definitely not the case. Just visually you can tell it's not titanium. I've tested it with magnets as well. Definitely not titanium, but kind of an interesting thing. That was one thing that I was like, okay, what's titanium, when I saw this was a titanium series, but turns out nothing, so that's kind of funny. But great looking spear point blade. It's about 2.75 inches, probably about 2.5 inches of cutting edge on that one though. Don't think the previous owner really carried this one. There were some light scratches on it, but nothing too major. It didn't seem to be heavily carried. The etching on that pile sides has the model number, which is again CT307. Quality since 1836, and then it says China in very, very small print underneath that. It seems like the font just gets smaller and smaller the farther you get down into that etch. But great action on that one. We have the pen blade on the opposite side, and this one has a much heavier pull. It doesn't feel to me, and it's only in the first half, it lightens up a lot in the second half. It doesn't feel to me like a lot of that's coming from the spring. It seems to me like maybe the pivot's just really dirty and it just needs to be flushed. I haven't done that yet, but it doesn't feel like a spring tension to me. But it is a heavier pull for sure, probably about a 6 in the first half, and then it drops all the way down to about a 3 in the second half. You also see some scratches on that tang, which leads me to believe maybe it's just rubbing up against the pivot and the liner there, and that's what's causing that resistance in the first half, because the liner does end a little bit earlier than that, and so maybe that's what's causing. I'm not sure, but nice pen blade here that's about 2 inches long, again probably about a 1.75 inch cutting edge there, and we have the Colt stamp on this side, the pile side in this case, with no etching anywhere on that blade. But overall, a really cool knife. I'm glad I was able to pick this up. I didn't have to pay too much of a premium on this. I think I paid something like $30 or so, so maybe a little bit more than what it was retail, although I'm not even sure about that. The cool thing about this one, besides getting my first Canoe pattern, was that it's made by Colt, or produced for Colt, at least made for Colt, and that's a firearm company. I have the Remington bullet knives, which I really enjoy, and I also have a Winchester Barlow, which is awesome knife. I do have some Smith & Wessons as well, but those are modern knives, and to be honest, those ones are not very good. But at least from the traditional standpoint, it seems like a kind of cool sub-collection to continue to delve into, because these honestly don't feel like money grab knives. This is a really well done Canoe pattern knife. You know, the fit and finish on this overall is really, really solid, and it's hard to judge the fit and finish on these kind of second-hand older knives, but even taking that into consideration, excellent fit and finish on this one. So something I'm definitely going to continue to pursue. I really enjoy the knives that I've gotten in the firearm category in these traditional slip joints, so definitely something I hope to pursue going forward. But let me know what you think of this one down in the comments below. Any additional information or insight would be greatly appreciated as well. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, or joining the channel as a member. They all help the channel out a ton. Also want to mention, if you're watching this video the day it goes live, do have a live stream with my partner and co-host Tim, School of Fish, and it's going to be over on his channel tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, with guest John Rusk of EMP EDC. So super excited about that. If you're free, would love to see you there in the chat, but really looking forward to it. If you miss it, obviously it will be available to watch after on Tim's channel, so definitely check that out. But thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.